What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well, having a good Thursday and another day. More Manchester United news stories to delve into ahead of this weekend's Manchester derby against Manchester City at the Etihad. Which, you know what, guys, I didn't even want to look that far ahead. I don't even want to look that far ahead at the moment. We're living today. That can come on Sunday. I'm joined this evening by Faz and Cam. Thanks for joining me, guys. Let's first start off talking about Harry Maguire. I mean, how long have we got? Let's face it, when I talk about Harry Maguire, how long have we got? We could talk all day about the Manchester United captain, but we've got to, because a report came out this morning, and I don't know if you've seen it. It's from Paul Ballas from The Times, which we'll talk about, outlets and all that kind of stuff in a bit. But the report says Harry Maguire's continued selection in the starting lineup has been privately questioned by members of the Manchester United squad. His dip in form has not impressed some of his teammates. Furthermore, some Manchester United players have felt that some of Harry Maguire's performances this season have not met the club's standards, and they have aired these grievances among themselves at Carrington. Now, as we always say here on the channel, whenever you read anything online, you have to take it with a pinch of salt. You have to think, why are they writing it now? What's coming up at the weekend? Manchester derby. What's trending? Manchester United, Harry Maguire. Plus the outlets. What do Manchester United fans like to hear? That Harry Maguire isn't the best player at the club. They do like to hear that. When you go watch the Rolling Stones, what do you say? Play the hits. Yeah? No new material. Play the hits. That's the situation. But on the flip side, I suppose with any kind of reports, you can look at it like this one and go, I could see some truth in that one. I could see some truth in that. So we'll start off with you, Faz. What do you think about that report? What's your initial reaction to it?
I would say the reason why he's continuously getting picked in the squad is because he cost us 80 million pounds, and the two other centre backs together don't add up to 80 million pounds. As much as Ralph is calling the shots in terms of selecting players or whatever, if I was one of the people behind deciding on buying him, I would not want to be embarrassed, and I would not want the other two centre backs to be on and make a fool of myself. It seems like the reason why he's getting picked is because he's an English player first and foremost. A lot of the times things will happen. The way he will play, it will get it, they will just not look at it like that. You know where I'm heading with it. And again, the price tag as well. That's why he'll be always picked first. Look at Lindelof and Varane, how well they played together. Both of them together don't cost us 80 million pounds at all. So I don't know if it's Ralph's call more so or people above him, but that's how I'm looking at it. I'm just gonna say exactly how I feel, but that's how it comes across to me.
Cam, what's your initial reaction to that report? Hearing that some of the players privately question Maguire's performances and place in the starting 11, and they're airing those grievances at Carrington.
I mean, you got to remember as well, it's not like, I think when anyone's playing for a Sunday League team, if someone in your team's not performing, they're getting picked week in, week out, you're going to question the manager. It's going to happen every time. You're going to be like, players do notice if their teammates aren't up to scratch. But you've got to remember, this isn't a Sunday League team. This is a professional football club. They've got a whole analysis department going on. Every other day, these players will be in meetings, watching clips, watching stuff. So as much as we see all these Maguire fails on TikTok or YouTube, or these clips of him doing no-look defending or all of that sort of stuff, the players are going to get brought into big rooms. That will be put up on the big screen. They'll all be watching that together, thinking, how is this guy playing?
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that, actually, because you have those video analysis sessions, don't you, where you go, okay, why did we concede that goal? And if it's you, and if it's constantly you, then surely people might be having a look around going, actually, you know what, Harry? Like pull your finger out a little bit.
There's nowhere to hide. I mean, it'll be up on the screen. They'll be looking at it every day or every couple of days, and they'll see the mistakes he's been making. And they'll see when Lindelof and Varane play that those mistakes aren't happening. And players aren't stupid. They're going to realise it's happening. They're going to realise he cost 80 million. They're going to realise he probably shouldn't be playing. So I think the report's probably true, to be honest. Whether it needs to be made now or not, I don't know. I think, as you said, it's probably just because we've got a big game on the weekend, and United fans do like to hear that Maguire's not the best in the world. But yeah, these guys are going to be seeing these clips every single day. So just as much as we're watching it on TikTok or YouTube or whatever, these guys are seeing it for real, actually having it broken down for them. Stopped and paused, have the lines drawn all over it, all that sort of stuff. And it's going to be there right in front of everyone. So yeah, the reports will be right.
What's interesting about the report, though, Faz, is when it said that some of the players feel like Harry Maguire's performances this season have not met the club's standards. Now, I think even Maguire himself would probably say, you know, a lot of performances this season haven't met the standards of the club. But in fairness, is he alone in that respect? You know, are there other players also that have failed to meet the standards of Manchester United this season?
Look, when you're pointing a finger at someone else, there's four fingers pointing back at you. Three fingers pointing back at you. You know, each of the players need to look at their own performance. If the players are saying, "Oh, Maguire's performance is not up to scratch for Manchester United," well, what about Bruno when he's missing empty net? You know, what about Ronaldo, who's supposed to be the greatest footballer of all time, and he thinks he's got another 4 years in his tank? What about Rashford, who's supposed to be the next big talent, you know, in England, right? All these players, whoever it is, have to look at themselves. You can't just turn around and point finger at another player. And you know, let's look at it logically as well. Just like Cam said, they are looking at the analysis. They can see who's performing poor. I don't think Raf is the type of manager who's got favorites. So why is this person getting picked when week in, week out he's not playing? When there is no positives to look from? Fair enough, he's made some mistakes, let's say in first half of a game, but second half he's done well. Can we say that? No, we can't. So why is this person getting picked week in, week out? So I think there is some substance to that story, to that article, and there must be some questions being asked. But in terms of the players pointing fingers at him, they need to be pointing fingers at themselves as well.
Red Baron says Ralph may be picking the team, but there may be implied pressure to pick certain players. Politics FC versus City, I don't think will play a high line. What's interesting, Cam, about the whole standards thing, and kind of echoing what Faz said there, is he, first of all, is he alone in that? But also, what are the Manchester United club standards anymore? In the last decade or so, is that a situation? And I guess it lends to a bigger argument or a bigger conversation of we don't actually necessarily know what those standards are, because coming from above, you know, you could argue that we've accepted mediocrity for a decade or so, and that reflects in mediocrity on the pitch.
I don't think any of us can sit here and say what the Man United standards are now. I don't think we have a clue. I think standards are basically how far you're prepared to let it drop before you accept that that's where you are. And I think maybe with Maguire, the rest of the dressing room was saying that's dropped a little bit too far. But I mean, even without Maguire, it's not like we've been brilliant. It's not like we've finished our chances and been winning every game. So it's a hard one. But I think the important point is that other players think they can do a better job. And when that happens, then I think that's what they mean by club standards. When you've got players in that dressing room that feel like they can do a better job than that player, that's probably where the standards lie. But I don't know what to say about Maguire anymore, to be honest. It was only last year I was saying he's one of the best in the world and a world-class player, and all of a sudden...
But it's true that, I mean, there was a point last year, wasn't there, when he was out of the side and people went, oh, actually, we really miss him. We really miss him. And I guess it's difficult. It is difficult to sort of pinpoint. I mean, look, grievances getting aired in training isn't really anything new. I think that happens at every club. But Faz, is the issue here that, you know, whenever these grievances tend to get aired, that they do either end up in the media or they do end up spun into something bigger than actually, you know, happened at Manchester United?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, it could happen. That we will never know, right? But it's funny that these reports are coming out. That's the thing. It's funny that players are pointing fingers at their own captain. You know, senior players or non-senior players, or you know, players who've just come into the squad or whatever. They're pointing fingers at the captain, and it's funny that the players are pointing fingers and the manager has not yet done anything about it. Yet he still continues to pick him week in, week out. Obviously, recently he's had a change and played Lindelof and Varane, but like I would say, you know, it's Manchester United. Any bit of news, the dinner lady could have dropped something in the kitchen or whatever, and they would have made a news out of that, you know.
Yeah, they're pointing the finger at the dinner lady, going, "I'm not sure your tray carrying's up to standards at Manchester United."
The potatoes weren't done well enough, so Ronaldo couldn't finish. They'd say anything.
Exactly. Anything's possible. Like I was thinking about this earlier, Cam, because Harry Maguire, it's his birthday this week. I think he's 29 on Saturday, and you know, if he's technically, when you look at his age, you would say, "Wow, at that age." Senior player, right? Experienced, whatever that experience is, but experienced player. What does his future even look like at Manchester United, right? As a 29-year-old captain, going obviously through a difficult period right now, what does his future even look like at United, say, over the next season or couple of seasons?
Honestly, not a clue. I mean, happy birthday to him for Saturday or whenever it is. Hopefully, we get a good result on Sunday for a birthday present, but I can't see it, to be honest. But I think his future over the next season, it depends on what the next manager wants to do. I think it's been too long now. We've got to accept that if the next manager wants to play a high line, you don't start Harry Maguire. It's one of those where if you've got the right players around him, you've got a sweeper keeper, you've got a defensive mid that can run all over the pitch and cover him, fine. But we haven't got that. It's time to stop putting square pegs around holes. If the next manager wants to play a high line, get some centre backs that are capable of doing it, or play Lindelof and Varane, play Bailly and Varane, play players that suit the way you want to play. And Harry Maguire clearly doesn't do that. We see so often with Ralph Rangnick now, we're trying to play a bit of a higher line. Maguire gets caught out, and sometimes we try and play on the front foot. Maguire will sprint 20 yards from the halfway line. If we are playing that high line, he'll sprint 20 yards forward to try and go tackle someone. But by the time he gets there, the ball's gone round him, and there's a massive hole in defence. So it's over the next year. I think it's time to now stop looking at we paid 80 million for him. Just accept that we've paid 80 million. We're not going to get more than 30 if we sell him, maybe 40 if we sell him to Everton, because I mean they paid for 40 for Iwobi, so we can probably get the same amount from them. We can scam Everton. Put it that way. Scam Everton is the solution for the Harry Maguire issue. That's it.
That's what his future looks like. I mean, like Faz, given his age, could there even be an argument that at 29, like he's passing his peak of his career anyway in terms of like performance levels, and even that, again, what does his future look like?
His future, at this rate, he could turn into a Phil Jones where he just gets forgotten about, and then all of a sudden he comes back and then puts a shift in. It could be one of those. You just don't know with these type of players. He goes to another club, and the next thing you know, he's blocking everything. He's scoring from corners. You just don't know. But in terms of his age, he's 29 years old. He's the captain of probably the biggest club in football, and he's just not getting any better. It's just point blank period. He's just not getting any better. And looking forward, I don't think he gets any better than this. How many managers has he had to try and get better? How many different styles of play has he had to try and get better? The type of players he's got around him, and he's still not getting any better. So I think he's well past his prime in terms of going passing. If you're saying passing, he's long gone. The train's long left the station. He just needs to, we just need to call it a day with him and cash in whatever we can.
Cam, when it comes to like a captaincy decision, because we heard those stories a couple of weeks ago, and myself personally, I never bought into him because I think Ralph Rangnick as an interim manager, he's not going to come in and change the captain. That's a big club decision, which he just, as an interim manager, he doesn't make. And he's looking for short-term wins, and that's a big thing. But do you expect any captaincy decision to be made about him maybe next season, or maybe in the next couple of seasons, depending on who the next manager is, or with Ralph in this consultancy role and this new structure at United? Would you be shocked to see a captaincy change, or again, is it almost a difficult decision to make now?
I think it's a difficult decision, not because of Harry Maguire, not because of where Ralph is, but I think I don't think there's a single player in that squad who really is captain material. I don't think there's any player that you can trust. From what I want from a captain, if you're thinking about what the coach wants from a captain, you want a player who's going to give you, at the very least, a 7 or 8 out of 10 every single week. You want a player that you can trust to do exactly what you've asked him to do, carry out your instructions, because at the end of the day, as a coach, the captain is the guy on the field that's meant to make sure that your game plan is going the way you've asked them to do it. And I don't think at United right now we've got anyone that's firstly that consistent, but also tactically aware enough and intelligent enough and sort of has the right personality to be a leader on the pitch and do all those things. I don't think there's any player that can do that. We've got players that tick some of those boxes. So Scott McTominay, he's pretty consistent. He does what the manager asks, got the right personality, but really, is he good enough? Is he a guaranteed starter? Should he be a guaranteed starter when we sign the right players? No. Cristiano Ronaldo has won everything there is to win in the game. Always doing trying to do the absolute best for himself. Works so hard off the pitch. But does he buy into the manager's tactics and framework? Not really. Is he consistent enough every week? Again, not really. David De Gea, possibly. He's been pretty consistent this season. But is he going to help with tactics and framework when he doesn't come off his line? And that's not what you need from a modern keeper. Again, probably not. So I don't think there's really an option there. So I expect in the summer, whoever comes in, until we sign someone that proves themselves to be a captain, they'll stick with Harry Maguire. But I don't expect to see any emphatic sort of Harry Maguire's my captain, I stick behind him. I expect just no news. Keep it as quiet and as silent as possible, and they'll stick with Maguire as long as they can until someone else shows that they deserve that role.
But would you say that, like, okay, so there aren't obvious options, but would you say there are better options currently at the club, Cam?
I think, yeah, there's better options currently at the club, definitely. But at the same time, I don't think it makes sense to rock the boat unless, when there's 3 or 4 options that are better than Harry Maguire, all of them will be thinking I could do a better job, and all of them will be equally, possibly even more irritated if it gets moved and given to someone that isn't them. So I don't think it's a point to rock the boat now until you've got someone that definitely is a better option and is good enough to be Manchester United captain, which we don't have right now.
Where do you stand on that, Faz, when it comes to the captaincy call? I mean, obviously, we know a decision isn't going to be made this season, but could you see one happening with a new manager that comes in? Or, but like Cam said, is it an issue of necessarily who do you actually give it to?
Firstly, right now, I would take it off him and I would give it to David De Gea. It's just David De Gea has just been one of those players for me we need to put a lot of respect on his name. This man has saved us countless times. We need to put some serious respect on his name, and he's also looking to extend his contract going forward. He wants to stay here. He loves the club. He feels like he's a Manchester lad. So we need to put some respect on his name. I think he's definitely one of the players who could be a captain right now. If we're speaking, take it off him. A lot of people will say Bruno. I would also say Bruno. Part of me also really loves Bruno deep down inside, but the way he's currently playing, I don't know. Sometimes he doesn't tick it for me. But I would give it to David De Gea. In terms of a new manager coming in and making the decision, right now, in the past few days, I don't even think I want a new manager.
Really?
I don't even think I want a new manager. I'll be very honest and straightforward. I don't even think I'm ready for another change, another chopping, another bit of a reset button. This reset button that we keep thinking that we're pressing by bringing another guy in and this, that, the other. If we're really pressing the reset button, we'll have to, not just the manager, we'll have to go above him. This is what I want to really get across. We'll probably come to this conversation in a bit, but it's not just the manager, it's the people above him as well.
You were shaking your head there a little bit, Cam, when he mentioned the new contract for David De Gea. Why are you shaking your head? What are your thoughts on De Gea and in the captaincy role?
Again, I think it's another square peg in a round hole. I think if you want a modern goalkeeper, De Gea's probably somewhere you need to look to replace. I wouldn't say is the number one priority. I'd give him another year, another 2 years maybe. But at that point, I think at the end of his current contract, let him go, get someone else in. I think De Gea, don't get me wrong, he's not one of the biggest problems right now. We've got much, much bigger problems at the club. But I think going forward, we need someone with better distribution, someone who's more able to come off the line, more commanding, and better in terms of dealing with crosses. Because I think right now, De Gea's a fantastic shot stopper, probably the best in the world. Well, not probably, definitely the best shot stopper in the world. And he's shown that over various seasons. But again, it seems to be that David De Gea has his best spells of form when Manchester United are struggling. And that tells you that it's not when United go out and dominate games, when United go on long winless runs. It's when United are under the cosh, conceding a lot of shots, conceding a lot of chances. That's when De Gea has his best form. That's when it's happened over the past sort of since he's joined the club, really. And I think going forward, you need a player, a goalkeeper that you can trust on the ball, who isn't going to clear it to the opposition midfield 2 or 3 times a game. It happens every single match a couple of times. I don't understand why, because he's surely got to be working on it in training, and it happens every single game. And if you look at, obviously, in terms of him from defending crosses, defending set pieces, there's so much more that the likes of Alisson or even Melier at Leeds. I know Leeds have conceded a lot of goals, but that's not really Melier's fault. That's more just the mess that's going on in front of him. You need keepers that are better distributors, better in the air, better at crosses, more commanding. And that's just what the modern goalkeeper is. I think De Gea has been fantastic for us, so I'd let him have the rest of his contract. But beyond that, don't extend it. Go and get someone who fits the profile of the keeper you want to play. That you want to play. I think the new manager's got to be allowed to make the decision on that. I think if the club try and make that decision for him before we've got a new manager in, we're in the same hole we've been in for the past sort of 5-6 years. That's the board deciding things rather than the new manager. I don't know what's going on there, but I think I wouldn't give De Gea the captaincy. I'd just leave it with Maguire. I think if Maguire's not on the pitch, then between De Gea, Bruno, Ronaldo, take your pick, or McTominay, any of that lot. But I wouldn't make a point of giving De Gea the captaincy because I just don't think he suits it.
Faz, you're shaking your head. What do you think?
I don't agree with it, respectfully. All these people go on about David De Gea's distribution like it's causing us the top four, like it's cost us the loss against Middlesbrough, like it's cost us all the other cups. No, it hasn't. His distribution is poor, fair. You can't have every single cookie in the jar. Sure, his distribution is poor. He can work on it, but that is not costing us top four. This man has done amazing things for this club as a goalkeeper. He's been here for a very long time. We've won things with him. And right now, the captaincy wise, him, if you're talking about consistency, then what about Varane? Yeah, he's new in the club, but is he not consistent every time? Is he not a proven player? Bruno isn't a consistent player, so you surely can't give it to him if you're talking about consistency and overall performance and 7 out of 10 every week, week in, week out. Varane is. Everyone would agree with that. So what about him? But in terms of David De Gea, but in terms of David De Gea, absolutely his distribution. I mean, who are you going to distribute it to? Wan-Bissaka can't string 2 passes together. Scott McTominay fumbles it half the time. Fred gets shrugged off the ball by players we don't even freaking remember. Who is he going to distribute to? Ronaldo falls over every 30 seconds when he gets pushed. Bruno can't string 2 passes together. You give it to Matic, he holds the ball for 35 seconds. Pogba's trying to do step overs. Who are you going to distribute it to? Really, if you get a goalkeeper that can distribute, we don't have players like Mane, Salah. We don't have players like Foden, Sterling that can run with the ball crazy and score and make something with the ball. We don't. So the distribution isn't, his distribution that we're looking at all the time and people picking on it. I'm not for it.
So you're saying that Manchester United, we can't have every cookie in the jar when it comes to a goalkeeper. You're saying we want to be one of the best clubs in the world, challenging for the best titles, every competition going, and we can't have a keeper that can do everything.
Right. Right now, in terms of what we have now, we need to cherish what we have, and this is the best that we got.
I've said De Gea is not the biggest problem at the club, but I've also said I wouldn't renew his contract. I think at the end of his contract in 2 years' time, go and get someone that's better, that can do all those things. But you're saying that distribution doesn't matter because the players can't control the ball. Would you rather a keeper that kicks it to your players or the opposition players?
Yes,
obviously distribution does matter.
Of course, you want your keeper to kick it to your own player, but when your own player isn't capable, even when you bring a keeper in that is capable of distributing, and then Fred fumbles the ball, and what happens? He gets shrugged off the ball, and in comes someone else, takes the ball off him. You distribute the ball to Rashford, and he can't even touch the ball properly. You get a keeper in that can distribute, but you don't have the players that can even control the ball, let alone do something with it.
So what? We shouldn't try and pass to our players because they can't control.
No, I don't think his distribution. This thing about his distribution that we constantly keep picking on, it's like it comes across. I've heard it from others. It comes across like that's what's costing us a lot of the thing. It's not like you said before, Cam. It's not the biggest issue right now. To be honest, I really don't think it's something that he can improve himself. I'm sure he's aware of it, but it's definitely not even in the top 5 headaches that we have right now.
Would you also say as well, so how long does he have left on his deal? Is it a year? I think it's about a year, isn't it? Next season, 2 years maybe. Given all of the people we have to, a lot of the changes we have to make in terms of personnel at the club, and you're saying that David De Gea is such almost a low priority, given that we've got to get defensive midfielder. We might even have to get new sets of fullbacks. We've got to get a striker. We might have to get some other backup when it comes to people out wide. We still haven't really got that sort of right winger that Sancho was meant to be. He's playing on the left. All of those people, wouldn't you almost say, actually, you know what? Yeah, we can talk about De Gea's deficiencies, but let's be honest. First of all, he's saved. He's got the most saves in the Premier League this season, or something ridiculous like that. And realistically, we might have to extend his contract anyway, because if we're looking at maybe 18 months, we might get rid of De Gea. It's like whoa, we've got way more work to do first. Way more work to do first. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah. Definitely, 100%. I mean, I said the first thing I said was that De Gea is nowhere near the biggest problem at the club. We've got so many more positions we've got to replace. De Gea is not anywhere near. I wouldn't say he's even in the replacing him's even in the pipeline for the next 2 summers. I think we've got that much work to do that there's no point. But I think at the end of his contract that we can definitely get better options that are more complete goalkeepers for what we want to do.
Oh, I mean, in fairness, by the end of his contract, how old is he now? Is he 30, 31? He might be like 33 at the end of his deal anyway, and maybe that is something to figure out. But I do think Faz brings up a good point there as well, actually, in that you can talk about the goalkeeper's distribution, but if we're trying to pass it out from the back, I know it has to start from somewhere, but even if he does do a good pass to, say, the fullbacks, are we even confident that they can play out from the back either? It's like a catalogue of errors, is it not?
I mean, the players that we've got, I think it's ridiculous to suggest they can't pass out from the back. You look at any of these players at international
Well, you say that,
level,
we've seen it. We've seen it.
We've seen Harry Maguire making mistakes, admittedly, but at international level, these players are all capable of playing out from the back. Rafael Varane is capable of playing out from the back. Victor Lindelof is one of the best players at the club on the ball. He's so good on the ball. He's more than capable of playing out from the back. Luke Shaw, one of his best attributes is his ability to pass the ball forwards, make progressive passes under pressure. He is more than capable. Wan-Bissaka, we know what I think on that. Like he can't. He can't control the ball. Well, I don't want him in the team anyway. Diogo Dalot can do it. He can play on his right. He can play on his left side as well, so he can pass back inside. He's able to do it. We've got players that can play out from the back, but the keeper isn't helping with that.
Ray Diaz says, drop De Gea, sign Owen. I'm telling you, look, Ray Diaz, my day's gone when it comes to between the sticks. I mean, my distribution was crap anyway as well. It was terrible distribution with that. Steering it back to Maguire, though, we spoke about like Man United cutting their losses. Personally, I don't expect Manchester United to cut their losses when it comes to Maguire anytime soon. Faz, can United even afford to cut their losses when it comes to Maguire? They're going to take a loss on him. At this point, is it a pride thing? Is it a finances thing? Why do you think they wouldn't even approach getting rid of Maguire?
The way Manchester United do transfers and business, it's always a finance thing, isn't it? That's how it comes across to me sometimes. I would say, cut your losses and get rid of him. To be honest, cash in. That's the most sensible thing to do. Are they going to do it? I don't think so. They paid a lot of money, and they don't want, as a club, they don't want to get embarrassed. It's a clear embarrassment if they sell him for 40 million. 40 million is Scam was being generous. Like you said, Scam Everton get 40 million. 30 million would be, 30 million would still be too much, to be honest. Lindelof cost us 30 million. Varane cost us, 38, was it? Or something like that, with 10 mil add-on or something. It's 30 million for him. No, I don't even think we would get that. But at this point, more than anything, if we can't get rid of him, bench him. Just bench him, and let him kind of have a look at himself and address his own issues and address his own performance and think to himself, maybe it's psychological. Maybe he's getting picked every single week and he's playing loads of minutes and he's thinking, you know what? Maybe they believe in me. Maybe they see something in me. But soon as you're not on the pitch, then you really start questioning yourself, thinking, am I actually good enough? Really and truly, I'm sat there looking at Lindelof, I'm sat there looking at Varane, and I'm thinking, oh my God, right, I need to put a shift in. Phil Jones comes back after so long and people are cheering for him. He should be. But then when you're getting picked week in, week out, you're going to think to yourself, maybe they believe in me, maybe they see something in me, maybe I have something. So it might be psychological, but if Man United can sell him, cash in and sell him.
Cam, let's try and end the Maguire debate on somewhat of a positive if we can. Is there any way he can turn it around at Manchester United in terms of performance, in terms of winning the fans over? Is it a case of maybe if he loses his captaincy, does that allow him to turn it around and kind of focus more on performances as opposed to being the almighty leader of Manchester United on the pitch? Is it the captaincy that's weighing heavy on him, causing him to be putting in some bad performances? I mean, is there any way he can turn it around?
I think you can always turn it around. I think the number one thing I want to see, and a lot of fans want to see, is him actually start scoring from corners. The number of free headers he does manage to win, or the number of times he wins that first contact, but he doesn't get it on target. I think 2 seasons ago, the one thing I wanted to see between Maguire and most of our centre-backs really to take them to the next level is be more of a threat from corners, be more of a threat from set pieces. And it's just not happened. A number of times you look at Liverpool's defenders, Chelsea defenders, even the City defenders, they score from corners. They're big threats from set pieces. A third of goals come from set pieces and we don't seem to score many at all. That makes a huge difference. And that takes some of these 0-0 games into a 1-0 win, a 2-0 win, where, the attackers may not have turned up, but you can start praising the defenders thinking that, okay, the attackers haven't turned up. Defenders have come to the rescue and they've got the clean sheet. So it makes so much difference because when those games like Watford at the weekend, when it turns out 0-0, everyone's depressed, everyone's frustrated, everyone's irritated with different players. All it takes is one set piece, one corner, you win that game 1-0 and everyone's praising it as a very good performance. You've controlled the game. It's a game that you would have won 99 times out of 100. And the attackers weren't on form, but it's fine because one of your defenders stepped in and scored instead. I think that's what he's got to do. Start scoring from corners, being more consistent. But our record of clean sheets lately isn't actually that bad. Since Ralph Rangnick came in, we've had a massive, massive improvement in terms of the chances we're conceding. We're conceding far fewer than before. The amount of shots we're conceding is much better than before. And at the other end as well, we're scoring, well, not scoring, but we're creating more and looking more threatening as well at the other end. So I think in recent times, to be fair to Maguire, he's playing a lot better now than he was at the start of the season. So he's definitely going in the right direction, but I think he's got to improve himself a little bit faster and start scoring from corners as well. It makes a huge difference.
I mean, this is a bit of a tangent, Cameron. We'll get onto the Erik ten Hag in a second. But what did you think about the comments made by Darren Fletcher the other day? Because you mentioned corners when he was talking about Eric Ramsey, the set piece coach. Obviously, a lot of criticism this season because we only scored one goal from corners. That was against Leeds with Maguire header, which, by the way, the setup from that corner was horrendous. Like, it was the worst setup from a corner I think I've seen. But he said, actually, Eric Ramsey was brought in because defensively from corners we were really poor. I think last season we considered was it the second most goals from set pieces. This year, it's like the sixth least amount of goals. So those have gone down. But obviously, at the same time, we're not scoring. Do you think that's a fair comment from Fletcher, what he was saying about Eric Ramsey?
Yeah, it's absolutely a fair comment. I mean, if you look at the reason why we brought in Harry Maguire initially when we did sign him, it's because we were massively struggling in the air, whether that's from open play, be it with big strikers dominating our centre-backs, or whether it was from set pieces. We were losing the first contact a lot and conceding a lot of goals from set pieces. So I think it is very fair that they've brought in someone to address that, and we're definitely doing better at that. But at the same time, we're not there yet. And the other end is just as important, making sure we do score goals. But if you look at Manchester United in recent seasons, we should not have had a set-piece problem. At no point in recent years has there been a time when, let's say, we've been a particularly small team. Like, you look at Man City, on average, their players are fairly short. That's just the way it is. On average, the Manchester United players, the two centre-backs, De Gea, you've got Luke Shaw one side, Diogo Dalot who's playing the other side, Pogba, McTominay, now Cristiano Ronaldo. Marcus Rashford's pretty tall. He's decent enough in the air when he puts his mind to it. You've got enough big players there. And I think if you look height-wise, United have got to be one of the taller teams in the league on average. There's no
it was a big Jose thing, wasn't it? Having tall players, Matic, big tall midfield.
Yeah, exactly. So if you look at it in that sense, there is no excuse for our record a couple of seasons ago conceding so many from set pieces. And there's no good excuse now for why we can't score many. Because height-wise, I mean, if you're 3-4 inches taller than someone, even if they can jump a little bit, you're halfway there already. You don't need to do much to beat them. There's no excuse for our problems at set pieces. And I struggle to understand why it keeps happening. Because, I mean, what more do you want other than a physically dominant team? Once you've got that, surely the set piece goals just happen at some point. The delivery recently has been shocking, by the way, from Luke Shaw. He's he seems to have the wrong trajectory, wrong spin, wrong curve on pretty much every single delivery. He can't. I don't know what's happened to him since the Euros, but his delivery this season has been horrendous. But honestly, set pieces, there's no excuse for what we're doing.
Over 400 people watching, so be sure to smash the like on the like button, guys. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. Let's talk about Erik ten Hag. Of course, the managerial shortlist has been drawn up for Manchester United. We spoke yesterday, DJ and myself, really in depth about who could be on this shortlist: Pochettino, Ancelotti, Ten Hag, maybe Ralph Rangnick sticks around, Luis Enrique. But there was an interesting story that came out from Sami Mukbel from the Daily Mail, and he said that in regards to Erik ten Hag is set to have his heart set on a move to Manchester United at the end of the season. Reportedly, and you always hear this about foreign managers, by the way, Erik ten Hag has taken English lessons as he gears up for talks with Manchester United. He is studying English in a bid to ensure he has a fluent grasp of the language ahead of a possible move to the Premier League in the summer. Now, first of all, like I said, I'm pretty sure every single time Manchester United are linked with a manager that's from abroad, whether it's Ten Hag, whether it's Allegri, whether it's whoever, it's always they're having English lessons, get themselves ready for that Manchester United job. I do think it's also curious that yesterday we hear the report, it was from Rob Dawson of ESPN, that Ten Hag had reservations about the Manchester United job because he was unsure about the structure at the club. And then the next day we hear, no, he has his heart set on the move. So believe what you will. Faz, I mean, where do you sit on Ten Hag? Do you think he's the right man for Manchester United?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Because he comes in, like I was just saying before, he comes in and then there's people above him. The structure of the club is not right for someone like him to come in and call the shots. I think right now, Ralph, being in a position and the way his style of playing is, I'm kind of liking it. I'm kind of liking the way certain things are going. I'm kind of liking the way he's making, certain substitutions during the game. He's learning from each game as it comes. Ten Hag comes in, he then brings another style of play, another set of players that he wants, another list of players that he wants to get rid of. I saw somewhere where Ralph was saying they were going to send Elanga on loan when he was coming into the club, and then he said, you know what, actually, let's keep him. And imagine Elanga was somewhere else right now. Yeah. And also, you need to manage Manchester United. You need to have withstood a lot of pressure previously. That's what I think. As a manager, you must have some sort of history of going through the mud with a big club, and I don't think he is the correct man. I mean, Conte, by the seams of it, he doesn't want to sit in Tottenham's chair anymore. Maybe that might be a better call end of the season if Conte pulls the plug and leaves. I think I would much rather prefer him than Ten Hag. But if he's not available, I would actually keep Ralph. I would keep him.
Red Baron says he should have Mancunian lessons. Understand that Manchester dialect. Cam, what do you think about Ten Hag? We've spoken about before, talking about his style of play, possibly not actually being suited to the current squad of players at Manchester United. We hear a lot about certain Manchester United fans maybe being pro Ten Hag and not being pro Poch. Where do you think that comes from? And what do you think about Ten Hag in general?
I think with Erik Ten Hag, the big attraction is obviously he's a European name. He's a manager that's doing a great job at Ajax, obviously, but he's also something that we've not tried yet. We've tried an established manager who's sort of on the way up with, or established manager who wants to go to a bigger club with David Moyes. With Mourinho and Van Gaal, we've tried some guys who are at the top of their game, been there for a long time. With Van Gaal, obviously, he was probably a little bit more on the way down, but Mourinho was definitely at the top of his game when we hired him. The one thing we haven't yet tried is a young up-and-coming guy. If you look at Bayern, they've obviously gone and signed Nagelsmann. You've got lots of young managers taking positions around Europe. You've got Jesse Marsh has just gone to Leeds. You've got Marco Rose at Dortmund. It's something we've not tried yet. A young guy on the way up, potentially bringing in some new ideas. That's what we've not got. So I think that's why a lot of the attraction comes from. It's something we haven't tried and something that's a little bit different. I think also, obviously, there's been comparisons between Ten Hag and Graham Potter. And look, if you're going to sort of pick one of those to be a Manchester United manager, from a marketing point of view, from a branding point of view, just because your name's Erik Ten Hag, you're automatically 10 times above Graham Potter. Right? As bad as it sounds, the big guys at United will be thinking about that. They'll be thinking, can we put Graham Potter on a big billboard? No. Can we put Erik Ten Hag on a big billboard and be really excited about his announcement and generate lots of clicks with the social media tweets? Yes. Yeah, they can. Because it's a big name from Europe, someone that people know a little bit about, but not everything about. So there's a little bit of intrigue there as well. So I think that's what a massive reason why United are considering him. I think obviously on the pitch, it's something different. And I think in terms of whether the squad's suited for it, right now, not really, to be honest. I wouldn't say we've got many players that are capable of playing sort of high possession football. If you've got a team that needs to keep 75%, 80% of the ball, needs to be able to play quick combinations, Scott McTominay is not in that team. Fred probably doesn't get into that team. Harry Maguire probably doesn't get into that team. There's a few that do. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, not a chance. Marcus Rashford, not a chance. There's too many players in this squad that don't fit straight into that. However, there's a few now that you could say will fit into that. Anthony Martial will be good for that. Jadon Sancho's good for that. Victor Lindelof's good for it. Matic, Varane obviously can fit into that. Luke Shaw can fit into that. So there's enough players there that we can build around. But I think the difference between Poch and Ten Hag in that sense is that Poch will be much better equipped to work with the squad we've currently got. But Ten Hag will need huge investment. And I mean, you guys can answer for me here, but do you really think the number of positions we need this summer, what do you think the transfer budget is, and how many of those players do you think we actually sign? Because for me, the only way I can see this summer going is I think the board will be like, you know what? We need to appease the United fans again. We're going to go and get Declan Rice. We're going to go and get Harry Kane. And that might well be all we sign. And that will be a massive, massive outlay, a lot of money if they do go and sign those two. And it won't solve anywhere near all of our problems. So I think if we want Erik Ten Hag in, we're going to have to spend a lot of money, but also spend it wisely, which I don't know if we're equipped to do at the minute.
Red Baron says, we want KG versus Cam in a wrestling ring. Debating. Not wrestling, debating.
I'm glad he's not debating in there. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I'm in big trouble. Big trouble.
Yeah, that's where your tactics got to come into it. I do think it's funny though, Cam, because you talk about a coach on the ascendancy, and he is in terms of his managerial experience, right? Because Ajax was really his first big job. Had a couple of smaller jobs before that. Was it Utrecht? I think he was before that. Bayern second team. I think he was a coach at Bayern. But it's this weird point of view, isn't it? They'll go, oh, Ten Hag's on the ascendancy. He's 52 years old. Poch is 50, and yet there's this discussion that Poch is on the way down. Do you think it's fair to say that Poch is a coach in decline?
I think it's a little bit harsh. I think the PSG job, to be perfectly honest, is impossible. What the PSG job, being PSG manager isn't really about being a football manager. It's not really about your tactical mindset, any of that sort of stuff. You're basically just a politician. You're just there to keep all their stars happy, so that the Qatari owners can sort of promote them and be happy and all that sort of stuff. That's essentially what the PSG manager's job is to do. He knows full well that he's not going to be able to implement a high pressing style with Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe. They're not going to go and run through brick walls from like Salah, Mane, and Firmino and Jota and do it Liverpool for Klopp. He knows full well he's not going to be able to get Messi, Mbappe, Neymar tracking back into a deep block. He knows that if he goes into a Champions League game against a big team, his hands are tied. He's playing half the game, or maybe more if they've got less of the ball, with 7 or 8 players. That's the situation he's in. So I think it's a little bit harsh to judge Poch and be like, oh, he's failed at PSG. I think the only thing you can really, anything you do at PSG, unless you win the league and the Champions League, really is failure. So it's a job that it's almost impossible to succeed at. And with the contracts players are on, they've got no incentive to want to run for you, no incentive to want to work for you. So I think it's a little bit harsh on Poch, but at the same time, I think we're maybe 4 or 5 years. So Poch brought some new stuff to English football. He was probably one of the first high-pressing managers in English football. We've gone a little bit past that, and you do want to see something new that he can bring in. My question mark would be, what is that? Whereas with Ten Hag, at least there's some intrigue, some mystery still as to what he can bring in. So, yeah, it's a bit harsh to say Poch is on the way down, given that he's got basically an impossible job at the minute. But at the same time, he hasn't really shown anything new. And that, again, maybe because of just the nature of the job, but I do want to see something new from him if he's going to come in at United.
Ray Diaz says, manager requires distribution from goalkeeper equals Cam vomits. I think it's quite the opposite, actually. He wants distribution from the goalkeeper.
Yeah, be nice.
Yeah, nevertheless. Yeah, Faz, I mean, where do you sit on that? I mean, Cam's talking about maybe it's the mystery that people like about Ten Hag, but is mystery also not another word for risk? You spoke about risk earlier, and you wanted to have a manager that has somewhat experience with a big club. Where do you sit on the Ten Hag Poch kind of situation?
I mean, look who Ten Hag's working with. Look at the structure of Ajax. Look at the way they give. Look at the way they bring up the youngsters. Look at how much emphasis they put on their academy and how much trust they put on the younger players. Look at the way they bring players in and nurture them in the club. And when he comes to if he comes to Manchester United, he's going to be working with Arnold and John. Conversation ended there, right? He's not working with creative-minded people who want to bring a structure to the club, who want to put a balanced squad. Who want to bring a balanced squad, right? He'll have to work it. We might not even sell any of the players. We don't know who we're going to bring in. We're not even sure. Manchester United in the past few years haven't done well in the transfer market, to be honest, at all. Majority of the players that we've signed, except for probably Sancho, are not living up to their expectations, right? So him coming into this club, this mystery, I don't have time for mystery, and I don't have time to be patient anymore. You know, I'd rather have a manager. I'd rather keep Ralph, or I'd rather bring someone who can manage big egos as well, who can be, who's got the balls to stand up to the board at times. And the only person who I deem seem fit is Conte. Poch, absolutely not. Absolutely not. This man benched the player that took him to the Champions League final. That's criminal. That's unforgivable. That's criminal. That is unforgivable in the world of Planet Fast. That's unforgivable. No way. No way. And he's got a ready-made team with PSG, and you're still seeing him fumble sometimes. So no, I don't think Poch is the man for Manchester United at all. I didn't like him from day one, and I still don't think he's the right man for Manchester United. No. Right now, my best option seems to be Ralph. Ten Hag, his style of play, the players he plays with, he'll have to have a clear out. Will the board allow a clear out? Will the board give him a blank check to sign the players that he wants? I like some of the things I like that, he's very much linked with the style of Pep Guardiola's play. Sure, cool. He's got a tendency of believing in the youngsters and giving them a chance, and I'm all for it. But other than that, is he used to dealing with a club that's asking for 3 trophies in a season? Is he used to that sort of scrutiny, constant magnification on his performance? Everything will be picked apart from goalkeepers distribution to the strikers finishing. Is he used to that? I don't think so. I really don't think so. He's used to it, and it's a different sort of heat when you come to Manchester United. So that's all I'm worried about, really.
A couple of stats, Cam, because I know stat man Cam, you love your stats, that we kind of spoke about yesterday when it comes to Ten Hag. So at the moment, Ajax are 2 points ahead of PSV in the Eredivisie, but they've only conceded 7 goals this season. 7. Not even a double figure. 7 goals all season in 24 games. Of course, he's 52. So if he would come in for United, he'd be looking at a long-term appointment, one would hope. 73% win percentage over 202 games at Ajax. He's been there since 28th of December 2017. He got to the first Champions League semi-final since 1997 at Ajax. Fastest manager in league history to reach 100 wins with Ajax in only 128 matches. Obviously, that's the Dutch league. It's another thing to be able to do the step up into the Premier League. And as we spoke about earlier, there is a big rebuild because, there are going to be players leaving in the summer, players coming in. Money is going to be spent. We just don't know how much. Is he the right guy to be like, there's a lot going on in the summer? Is he the right guy to be given that amount of money, that amount of responsibility of, we're jumping in with 2 feet here. You're going to be the guy to rebuild United?
I think for me, the big thing that means that it'll be okay is Ralf Rangnick staying on. I think sometimes as a manager, when you come in from a smaller club, your expectations of what a good player is are a little bit low. So you can come in from Ajax and think of maybe a player that from the Ajax squad that he really likes, and he could bring them to Manchester United, and they could turn out that they're nowhere near as good as the players that United have currently got in that position. But I think what will help him out is that Ralf Rangnick's there, so they can work together. He can suggest names. He can be like, "Do you think this guy's good enough?" And Ralf can say, "Actually, you know what? Before I came to United, I would have said yes, but I've seen these guys in training, and actually, this guy's better. We've already got him. We don't sign him. We've got someone already." So I think, given that Ralf Rangnick's staying on, I think we're okay to appoint someone like Ten Hag. I think there's less risk with that. And I think Ten Hag, what he brings is, in terms of his football, it's so attractive. There's a lot of possession, which is obviously, I think, something that United fans want to see. But I think the big risk is that with how chaotic his football can be at times, and with how transitional the Premier League can be, with how good teams are on the counter-attack, it could be that we get ripped apart. And it could be that at the start, once his philosophy's actually had time to be implemented, it turns out he's got to adapt big parts of it. And the question is whether he's willing to do that. I think he's intelligent enough and smart enough to know that if he has to adapt things, he will. But it's a question, I think, of there is a bit of risk there of seeing how it turns out in the Premier League. Because I think, obviously, with the much better level of players you've got in the Premier League compared to the Eredivisie, I think there's much more risk of being torn apart on the break. And also, we saw in Pep Guardiola's first season with City, it took them quite a while to actually be able to play
work. It just didn't work. They had to get the players in, didn't they?
Yeah. It didn't work at all. It took them a long time to be able to play out from the back properly. And so I asked myself quite a few times, actually, if Guardiola had come to United instead of City, do we think he would have survived that first season, or would he have been handed out? Because the scrutiny for anything you get at United is 10 times worse than what it was at City. And people were laughing at him. Everybody was ridiculing Guardiola for what was going on. Match of the day were laughing at him. Every single pundit, every single show, every single bit of analysis was just ripping apart how his philosophy wouldn't work in the Premier League. And look what it's come to now. So I think with Erik Ten Hag, if we appoint him, if it goes wrong in that first season, we've got to just trust it. We've got to allow it and see what happens and see if he is good enough to adapt his philosophy as time goes on. But it's a tough one because we know full well we're going to need to sign probably over the next few transfer windows. We're going to have to sign 10, 15 new players that suit what the manager wants. And to get that many signings right, well, as Faz says, the only one in recent times that we can say definitely is starting to look good now is Jadon Sancho. Really, if we're honest, the only one that's playing up to level. Do we think we're going to be able to sign 10 or 15 players and get it right? I think that's what it comes down to, and it's going to be tough.
It is going to be tough, certainly. You mentioned, Faz, that you would be open to Ralph staying as the manager or a permanent manager going forward. Where do you think he's most effective going forward with Manchester United? Is it as a manager if we can't get some of these targets? You know, who's to say that Ten Hag would even come to Manchester United? He might see Manchester United at the end of the season that don't qualify for top four and might be like, actually, you know what? Given the structure of the club, you know what? I'll pass at the moment. You might have Pochettino that goes, actually, I'm going to go to Real Madrid at the end of the season. If we can't get that right option, is Ralph a legitimate option for us? And where do you think he's most effective as a manager or as, say, a sporting director / consultant?
I don't understand this sporting director / consultant role. So they said they said the consultant. What's a consultant? You either listen to him or you don't. You take his advice with it as a pinch of salt. You know, you don't even need to listen to him, really. He's just there to give his thoughts on things and players. So I think he's been extremely effective soon as he's, come in. I was quite a bit skeptical on him, because this is a manager we've not even had in the conversation prior, and all of a sudden this manager is coming as an interim manager. Manchester United don't do interim managers and stuff, and I was upset why we didn't get Conte at that time. But looking at how he's been doing, he's been learning from his mistakes. He's been learning from the players' mistakes. He's been trying, and he's extremely honest, which I actually really, really, really like about him. Let's not get that twisted. He's really honest. I don't know if that's media stuff that he's doing or whatever, but it sits right with me. Some of the things that he says, yeah, it is right that as coaching staff, you can only teach the players how to create chances. The finishing comes to them at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
So the things he's doing, I like. And it'll be another bit of change if we get another manager in. I agree with Cam that if Ten Hag comes in, it's a possibility him and Ten Hag work together and they do really well. It's a possibility. They're both from Europe. They're both aware of each other. So yeah, there might be that mutual respect and they do well. But it's just his position upstairs. How much of the decision-making power will he really have? That's kind of my actual worry, right? How much will they actually listen to him when it comes to signing the players, when it comes to selling the players? How much emphasis will he have when it's coming to communication with the players? And I also want to put it in here, since we're talking about managers, Diego Simeone. What about him? Why don't we like him? Well, I really like him. I really like him. I like a manager who when you're performing bad, you look at your manager and you know you're in shit. You're in trouble. I like that type of manager. Yeah, I like that type of manager. I do, and I think he's a great manager as well. He's done good things with Atleti, so he could be part of the conversation as well. Right now, any big manager could be part of the conversation. But in terms of Ralph staying, I would want him to stay and put some calmness into our squad for at least one full season.
Do you think his effectiveness is basically with the consultancy thing is a case of if he's listened to or not? If he's not listened to, I suppose he's not effective, basically.
Don't have to listen to him, really, do we? As a club, we do. The board or the people who are doing the negotiation actually don't have to listen to him, do they? They don't. And it will just turn up to one other shit show then, where we're signing players because of value and we're signing players because of shirt sales. I don't know. We're going on vibes and that's it. So I don't think he'll be as effective as he is being now as a manager.
You were shaking your head there, Cam, about Simeone. What's your thoughts on Simeone as an option?
I mean, Faz, what do you want from a manager? Do you want him to play good football, like attractive football, attacking football, exciting football?
I want the manager to take 3 points week in, week out. I want the manager to be able to install some sort of fear. In recent times, Manchester United players, sometimes they don't feel like they fear the manager. We've had too much of babysitting of some of these players, and I want a manager with a bit of roughness, and I want a manager with a bit of venom in him to kind of have a stamp in the club, because some of the managers in the past times, especially with Ole, he's just softened the club up too much for my liking.
Have we not tried that already with Jose Mourinho? Players were scared of him. He was ripping to Luke Shaw constantly. There was constant reports that he was terrorising the players. They weren't happy.
He's just a different kettle of fish. He is. What can I say? I mean, the other day he took the ball and kicked the ball. He was a different kettle of fish. But right now, the way we're playing, looking at some of the things, I miss Mourinho. I miss the type of stuff he used to do right now.
That's a big statement, Faz.
Yeah,
That's a big statement.
Yeah, some of the things he said then, it makes sense now because the club structure is not right. Some of the things he said then, now it makes sense. I feel sorry for him sometimes now, what we did with him. I do. That man, he tried his best with the club and with the players that we had at the time as well, and at the squad that we had at the time as well, and we still sacked him. He came second and we still sacked him.
But he's failed at every job since. He clearly can't be that good, and clearly can't be the type of manager that works with modern players.
Sure. Yeah, but then how is Ten Hag more established than him? How is Ten Hag, this mystery, this sexiness of him, how does that bring any more calmness to our squad? How does that bring any more success to our squad? Someone who's, they would call his league Farmers League, respectfully.
I don't know what you're trying to say, because what we're saying here is that Jose Mourinho has his approach clearly doesn't work. So we're trying someone with a different approach. That's exactly why it will bring more calmness to our squad, more composure. It might be that a different approach works better with the players we've got. And I think to go on and say Simeone, that is, honestly, I don't want to watch 20% possession, sit back, 4-4-2, park the bus every single game. That's boring. It's not exciting. That's not how a modern club should play. That's how you play if you're a club in the shadow of your neighbours in your city, which is what Atletico Madrid are. Let's be honest. They're a club that's, for their entire existence pretty much, been in the shadow of Real Madrid, watching them go and win trophies. They're the small club in their own city. That's what you expect from Manchester City, not from United. We can't have a manager like that coming to United and sort of waving his arms around, shouting quite a lot. Yeah, great. He's got a bit of passion about him. So does Antonio Conte. But those sorts of managers, that's not the football we want to be playing at Old Trafford. We want to have teams come to Old Trafford on Champions League nights. We rip them apart. Don't give them a kick of the ball. Create 10, 15 chances a game. Good goal-scoring chances. Not concede many at all. We don't want to be watching Champions League nights where we're sort of hanging on. That's not what people like. We've heard chants of attack in recent weeks. In recent weeks, I think we've created like over 2.5 XG in almost all our games recently.
That's most chances since Ralph Rangnick came into the league, isn't it? 160 chances, 4th in goals though. And we're still trying to attack.
Yeah, exactly. and if you're saying that, then what's wrong with him staying? If that's the case, then what I am saying, my original statement was, I want him to stay and put some calmness into the club, at least for one whole season.
Okay, so yeah, no, I agree. I think if we can't get a long-term manager this summer, the next best option is keep Ralph Rangnick for another year.
I would agree. I mean, there was the report yesterday about Ancelotti, and I think a lot of the response wasn't it? If you go with Ancelotti, who is a short-term option, he's 62, Rangnick 63, so it's the same. If you're going with Ancelotti as a short-term option, you've already got a guy that's been in the role for however many months, knows the players, knows the club at this point. It's not as if we're playing terrible stuff. Granted, I think some people's response to that is March, at the end of March, we'll really know, those kind of credentials from Ralph Rangnick, because there is theoretically, we could get to the end of the March and we could have lost every single game. That's all how big those games are. So, and the games he's had so far relatively have been against sort of lesser side, shall we say. But yeah, I would agree with you guys saying that if we couldn't get those options, I don't see a reason why he wouldn't be considered. I think the bigger debate is how can he be more effective to Manchester United going forward? And would we want him on the touchline, or would we want him, I'm not necessarily sure he'd be in the boardroom, but would we want him upstairs being a part of those football decisions, having a football person being part of those football decisions? I mean, what do you think about that, Cam?
To be honest, I don't think it really matters what role he's in. I think it's pretty obvious at this point. If we don't get a long-term appointment, whether that is what the board want in Poch or in Erik ten Hag this summer, then I think well, we're all agreed here. The next best option is keep Ralph Rangnick for another year, then make him a consultant. I think the whole attraction of making him a consultant is that he knows the club, he knows football inside out. He can work. He's an intelligent enough guy to work with any manager in terms of philosophy. He could. I mean, I know we don't want Simeone in the club, but if Simeone came in, Rangnick's intelligent enough to understand what he wants and be able to go and say, yeah, this player would suit that. It may not be the way he wants to play football, or the way we want to see the football that we play at Old Trafford, but Rangnick's an intelligent enough guy to work within that framework. He sees things, he understands the game, which is why we want him in the boardroom. Why we want him upstairs. But if you look at what he's done since he's come in, look at the expected goals, and the reason people bang on about expected goals is because it's a really, really good predictor. Over a large sample size, expected goals lines up pretty closely with the actual goals and pretty closely with the actual points you get from games. And we look at Chelsea at the start of the season, when they were in that top 2 or 3, they were and challenging the leaders. they were massively overperforming their expected goals, massively. At some point, it was going to drop off. And to be honest, I think a lot of people were starting losing faith, saying that the XG is just wrong, because Chelsea were conceding so few goals, so much less than expected. But it's happened. They're conceding more now. They're scoring fewer goals, conceding more. Over time, you'll vaguely match up with your XG. And that means if the way it's going at the minute under Rangnick, there's clear improvements. You can't leave 5-6 big chances out there on the pitch every week that you haven't scored. Eventually, those goals are going to start going in. Whether that means a new striker comes in, whatever it is, those goals are going to start going in. And over time, we become a better team, and it's reflected in the points we get. So right now, yeah, keep Ralph Rangnick if we can't get the first choice, because he clearly knows what he's doing. He's clearly making a big difference. And the point is, if you want to win titles, you've got to have consistent progress. You've got to be statistically sustainable. And right now, in the last since Ralph Rangnick's come in, we are sustainable. We're creating enough chances, conceding fewer chances, and that will get us wins. That's how you win titles ultimately, if you do that over a season. So yeah, whether it's as a manager for another year or whether it's in the boardroom, he's got to stay at the club.
Wow, that was a very interesting debate. I enjoyed that a lot this evening, guys. Faz, where can they all find you on social media?
Faz1996_ or Planet Faz everywhere else.
He lives in his own world, guys. Yeah, that's why it's Planet Faz.
I said Ralph last time we did a live. Let's not forget. I said let's keep Ralph. I said it.
Cam, where can they all find you?
It's up there at StatmanCam on all socials. Nice and easy.
Perfect stuff. So tomorrow, Friday, we've got a press conference. Press conference is going to be interesting to see what Ralph says ahead of the Manchester derby. Flex has got some really fun stuff coming up this weekend when it comes to previewing the Manchester derby as well, so keep an eye out for that one. Then, of course, on Sunday, it will be the Manchester derby itself, so we've got a full match day experience, including the road trip, including the match view of KG, match reaction here with myself, and obviously all of the fan views outside the Etihad as well. So it's going to be a good one. Anyway, guys, we're out of here. Have a good evening.